welcome to the press conference after Bennetts BSB Race 1 at the final round of the season here at Brands Hatch. We'll start with you, Scott. Scott, it was a hard-fought third place. It was a tough race from you, especially after the restart, having to come through the order. Talk us through it from your perspective.
It was a hard day in general, actually, to be honest. It was a tough one. I hadn't had one of them for a while. Due to a little problem in qualifying in the Q3, which was, would have been nice to be on the front row or fight for the pole position, which I think had pace for that today. But we didn't, so it is what it is. I had to start from 9th, which is probably the most unideal place to start on the grid here at Brands. But we got through quite clean, and then it was in the race 1, and I started making steps through riders. Then Luke crashed going onto the back straight, and the bike went one way, went another. I thought, okay, just roll out. I'm not going to take a risk to hit someone or their bike on today. Gave 5 seconds to the front group, and I thought, sweet, let's get our head down again. And I was really catching the guys quite fast, 3/10 to half a second a lap. Just as I got there, red flag come out, so I used a lot of tyre to just get a red flag. But then again, I started a few positions up for race 2. And race 2 was quite similar, struggled off the start. The Hondas are very good off the start, both come either side. I got Andrew one side and I got Flores the other, and I had to fight my way through. Everything was quite clean, was quite good. And I just struggled with rear grip, where I used it in race 1 a little bit, and I was just battling with Danny, Iden and O'Halloran. And it took me a while to get through, and that's kind of what let them guys get away. Josh had good pace in the first few laps of race 2. But I did the best I could do today after a hard day in the office.
Tommy, second place for you. On the restart, the gap between you and Josh was going down, and then it went back up again. How did you find that race?
Yeah, it was tricky really, because obviously before the red flag it was kind of same scenario really. To be fair, me and Josh were kind of out front, and just watching the pit board, it felt comfortable. And then obviously the red flag came out, but Josh kind of caught me off guard. Well, I say caught me off guard. He obviously made a good start after the restart, after the red flag, and to be honest, just absolutely hammered lap 1. And that's kind of what done the damage for me, really, because I was not stuck, but stuck behind a couple of riders. So it took me a lap and a half-ish or 2 laps to get into second. And as soon as I did, I think Josh probably maybe a second and a half at least, I would have thought. I really had to, put the hammer down and dig deep to drag him back. But just use a little bit of rear tyre. And then I could see Josh was almost spinning a little bit, and I thought, that's fine. If he's struggling, I'm struggling. I can take it towards the end. But where I struggled was not exit, was more entry. When I started losing the rear on entry, I started struggling with the front. And as soon as I start losing feeling with the front, it's a bit of an Achilles heel for me, to be honest. So I felt good. We've had a great season all in all. Obviously now mathematically I can't fight for the championship, which is obviously a shame, but obviously we can hold our head up high for the year we've had. The Oxford product, Motor Rapido Ducati team have done a phenomenal job, and I feel like we've pushed these 2 guys as hard as anyone physically could all year. And I think we've all had a great season, to be honest. Yes, we got tomorrow, but all in all, it's been a good fun year, and we'll just sort of try and end the season again tomorrow on a high and see what we can do.
Josh, it's been a perfect day for you. Pole position, the race win. You were able to take some points out of Scott's advantage going into the final 2 races tomorrow. Talk us through the race from your perspective.
Yeah, we've, qualifying, the track was mostly dry, but the track wasn't reacting like the track we were used to racing on. So the start of the first race, I wasn't really sure how hard to push. I didn't want to be the fool that fell off in the lead, it's what I was trying to avoid most. So I kind of probably took a little bit too much, I was riding too conservative, because the track just didn't feel like a lot of grip was there. And then I had +0 on my board, and it had a number of people were all right behind each other. So I knew everybody could run the same pace I was, so I knew I needed to lift my game a little. And then the red flag came out, so I got to talk to the mechanics and understand exactly what was happening in the race. But then the next problem was starting off pole position and getting to the first corner first. It meant I had to go through the dust first, and I was a bit unsure how hard to push, because there was no sort of, and the sun was at a real low level, so you could almost not see anywhere where the dust was or where the oil may have been before. It was a really tricky situation. So I kind of just had to guess my first lap through. And then I got round for the second lap and I still wasn't any more informed because I was leading. I didn't know where any other people had gone, if they'd had any moments. So I kind of felt really uncomfortable trying to guess how and where to be in that corner. But then once I got, in a bit of a rhythm, I knew that the other riders were, going to push. So I started to push and started to get more confidence with the bike. And at one point I read, it was obviously Bridewell when he got past to second. But when I first read it, I mistakenly read Burn. And it was just, I must have been in a mindset or something like that from past races. And I was like a couple of corners later going, that's not Burn, it can't be Burn. So, so that was a bit of humour for the race. But yeah, as you said, perfect situation. I can only do what I can do at the front and worry about let happen what happens behind me.